Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bold and Beautiful today. Steffy notices Reese in Liam's surgery room and realizes it's all a fraud. Steffy is alarmed when Finn questions Grace about Liam's condition. As Steffy Forrester handles some concerns, John Finnegan will question Grace Buckingham regarding Liam Spencer's health. On Thursday's B&B episode, Steffy and Hope Logan will resume their conversation at Forrester Creations. There will undoubtedly be more discussion regarding Liam and his experiences over the past few months. Steffy wishes there was a way to repay Liam for saving her life and put an end to the drama surrounding the brain tumor. Hope and Steffy will continue to find it hard to comprehend the idea of losing Liam. Steffy and Hope have further cause for concern, but Liam made it through all of the Luna Nozawa chaos. Steffy might give Finn a call at some point to check on Liam and get the most recent information. At that point, Finn might acknowledge that Grace approved Liam's discharge and gave Bill Spencer permission to take him from the hospital. There may be some warning signs for Steffy because this is happening far too quickly and Liam is still healing from a gunshot wound. If Hope receives updates on Liam's speedy hospital discharge, she might be able to express Steffy's worries. Liam apparently just had surgery to remove his tumor and give him a chance to survive, but Steffy and Hope won't know that, of course. Bill will continue to be appreciative as he looks after Liam at the private surgery center and promises to take full use of this second opportunity. This will genuinely feel like the medical miracle that Grace said it was, in Bill's opinion. Grace will soon return to her workplace because she can't avoid drawing suspicions by being gone from the hospital for too long. Grace may use Bill's money to pay off the individual who has been bothering her over the phone after seeing a $1 million transfer completed on her phone. She will appear relieved but also guilty. Liam didn't require a miraculous treatment and most likely didn't receive one because all the evidence points to his brain tumor being a scam. To make it look like an experimental therapy, Grace probably just cut Liam's head open and applied a bandage. It's possible that Liam's prior test results were fraudulent, and the medications he took were merely meant to make him appear ill as part of the deception. Grace undoubtedly had a reason to carry out this degree of deceit if she is dealing with severe debt and threats against her family. In any case, Grace is behaving very shadily and will finally be subjected to Finn's interrogation. At some point, Finn will undoubtedly question Grace about why she gave her approval for Liam's early hospital discharge. Given Liam's brain tumor weakening him in addition to his shooting recuperation, Finn could wonder if that was a smart move. Grace might seem overwhelmed by the inquiries Finn asks regarding Liam's health, which would make him even more wary. Will Liam become dark after brain surgery? Will he be changed by brain surgery? Bill is currently waiting and pacing after spending a fortune on this life-changing procedure for Liam. Additionally, his son has not yet woken up despite recovering from surgery. Liam might be unconscious for some time, according to Grace, but it appears to be good, and this probably saved Liam's life. Grace informs Bill that they have achieved their miracle, the brain tumor has disappeared and Liam will survive. All of that is fantastic news, but it all seems a bit too simple and convenient. I mean, I was hoping for a last-minute miracle save. That portion doesn't appear to be simple. I simply wonder if there's a chance Grace might have failed to warn them about some potential surgical side effects. Perhaps there will be a twist since, if not, everything looks far too simple. Liam may so be given a fresh lease of life. He will live to be a very old man. But what if he is a completely other Liam? One that isn't like the man Hope Logan and Steffy Forrester fell in love with, you know. What if Liam changes completely as a result of this, and not necessarily in a positive way? According to some research I completed, having a cancerous brain tumor and having surgery to remove it might alter your behavior, feelings, and personality. In fact, I had a friend whose husband had a brain tumor. He entered her home like a stranger, and even after the brain operation, he never returned to the kind man she had married. It was pressing on the lobe and had caused some sort of lasting injury, so things didn't work out for them. However, it has been a long time. I therefore wanted to brush up on my knowledge of actual research. Additionally, individuals may experience difficulties making decisions following brain surgery. They could have trouble controlling their impulses. Their social behavior might undergo significant modifications. certain actions might not be appropriate. I'm wondering if Bill's son is going to change because of this. Bold and the Beautiful, examining possible consequences of Liam's change. The first possibility that strikes me as being quite intriguing is that Liam becomes vicious and sinister. He is the exact opposite of who he has always been. You know, Liam has generally been calm and easygoing. Bill used to refer to his son as a tofu boy who hugged trees. Liam has, of course, had his share of problems on Bold and the Beautiful. He has been unfaithful. He has alternated between Hope and Steffy, but he has never been evil. Sometimes, Liam simply can't resist following his heart, even if it takes him in two different paths, with two different women, or occasionally even intersects with Steffy and Hope. However, I find the concept of a dark Liam to be rather intriguing. Additionally, I've read that Scott Clifton once considered portraying a darker Liam, but they've never actually done it. Will Liam Spencer start to act out and go after Hope Logan? The second possible outcome is that, since he defeated the brain tumor, Liam might decide he doesn't want to waste any more time or days and will instead take life by the horns and become aggressive. This is known as carpe diem, which means he will take what he wants by any means necessary. And taking Hope might be the first step toward that. Perhaps once Liam wakes up and realizes he wants Hope back, he starts acting very aggressively, approaches her, and demands her to break up with Carter Walton and return to him. We are all aware of Liam's intense love for Hope, and I do think he still feels the same way about her today. It seems to me that Liam simply shoved her at Carter because he believed he was going to die and didn't want Hope to be left to grieve. Liam wished for Hope to lead a contented and loving existence. Additionally, he believed Carter would make a suitable stepfather for Beth. However, Liam might say to Hope, "Listen, I love you," after waking up and learning that he will survive. You have my undying love. You will always have my undying love. You have my desire. Get away from Carter. Select me. Furthermore, Liam may be extremely forceful and put pressure on Hope to choose him if the tumor or operation that is pressing on a crucial area of his brain changes his personality. Liam might behave in a way that Hope isn't familiar with. Additionally, we might witness Liam becoming fixated on Hope if she continues to date Carter. And it might be really dramatic. Could Dollar Bill be channeled by Liam? Examining Liam's potential change. Therefore, Liam might start acting more like his father Bill, which would be the third way he changes. We all know that, even in their darkest moments, Liam and Wyatt Spencer have never been as merciless as their father, who would stop at nothing to get money and seize what he desires. Bill will run anyone over to get what he wants. Therefore, it would be intriguing if Liam woke up exhibiting the worst qualities he got from Bill, but he was always restrained. You know, Liam got what he always wanted from Bill just before the procedure. His father expressed his affection for Liam and his pride in him in an honest manner. Things would be fascinating, in my opinion, if things were reversed and Liam essentially became Bill and treated his father the same way Bill had treated him. It would be a massive karmic slap for Liam to act like Bill, which would be cocky and arrogant, like a snack-sized replica of the dollar bill, and belittle and make fun of his father. Therefore, I believe that everyone would be shocked if Liam emerged from this as Dollar Bill 2.0. Is Liam going to go after Steffy Forrester again? Finn's and their friendship's effects. The next possible negative development for Liam would be if he betrayed Finn, who is now a close buddy, and Liam resumed his pursuit of Steffy. You know, throughout this medical issue, Finn and Liam have developed a sincere bond. They are truly fond of one another. However, this newfound connection with Finn would be ruined if Liam became a genuine jerk after the surgery and began following Steffy. And Liam and Finn might start competing once more. Steffy would be furious. Finn would, too. Since they don't want Liam to be in the middle of them again, I believe that many fans would detest it. I think the outcome would be awful, but never say never. It would be a soap opera. Amnesia twist. Will Bold and the Beautiful Liam forget his past? The final item is a common soap opera cliché. After undergoing brain surgery, Liam develops, wait for it, amnesia. He might awaken with no recollection of his identity, his life, his father, Bill, or anybody else. If Liam forgot them, everyone would be appalled, especially Bill, who recently spent $1 million on this miraculous medical treatment. In fact, I would like to see Liam awaken from this procedure in a different state. I believe it would be amazing to watch him turn black, chase Hope aggressively, or channel Bill. Those possibilities are a lot of fun. The thought of Liam pursuing Steffy once more would make me very unhappy. Furthermore, I don't think I'd like to see Liam suffering from amnesia. Soap operas have used that plot so much. Steffy Forrester and Hope Logan, thick with years of rivalry, betrayal, and reluctant connection forged through shared heartache over Liam Spencer, hung heavy with a new, chilling dread. Their conversation, a fragile truce born of crisis, inevitably circled back to the man who remained the agonizing epicenter of both their worlds, Liam. The recent, violent trauma of his gunshot wound, suffered while heroically shielding Steffy, was still a raw, gaping wound in their collective consciousness. Steffy, her usual steely composure fractured by a profound debt she felt she could never repay, voiced the desperate yearning echoing silently in Hope's heart. I just wish there was something more we could do, Hope. Something to finally end this endless nightmare he's trapped in. He saved my life. How do you repay that when the universe just keeps piling more onto him? Hope, her eyes reflecting the same profound exhaustion and fear, could only nod mutely. The specter of Liam's earlier, terrifying brain tumor diagnosis, a seemingly insurmountable obstacle layered cruelly atop the physical recovery, making the very thought of his potential loss an abyss too vast, too dark to fully contemplate. They had weathered the storm of Luna Nozawa's paternity bombshell together, finding a fragile solidarity in supporting Liam through that emotional minefield, but that now felt like a distant skirmish compared to the existential battle he currently faced. The tumor, a silent, insidious invader, threatened not just his health, but the very essence of the man they both, in their complex ways, loved. The relief that he'd survived the shooting was now inextricably tangled with the paralyzing fear that the tumor could steal him away regardless, a cruel twist of fate leaving them perpetually braced for the next devastating blow. Seeking a lifeline, a sliver of reassurance in the suffocating uncertainty, Steffy reached for her phone, her fingers trembling slightly. She needed to hear Finn's voice, her husband, the doctor, the anchor in this tempest. Dialing his number, she sought the latest update, a simple confirmation that Liam was stable, that he was still there, fighting. Finn? Any news? How's Liam holding up today? Her question, laced with barely contained anxiety, hung in the air of the design studio, Hope leaning in instinctively, hanging on the silence before Finn's reply. At the hospital, Finn Finnegan, his brow furrowed with a doctor's innate concern that was rapidly escalating into professional disquiet, delivered the news that would detonate Steffy's fragile calm. Steffy, he's not here, Finn stated, his tone carefully measured but unable to mask his own unease. Grace Buckingham signed off on his discharge earlier. Bill Spencer took him. The words landed like physical blows. Discharged? Now? Steffy's voice cracked, rising in pitch, the alarm bells clanging violently in her head, instantly audible even to Hope across the room. Finn, that's impossible. He was shot weeks ago. He's recovering from major trauma, and he's immunocompromised because of the tumor. How could she possibly justify that? The medical absurdity screamed at her. Liam was vulnerable, his body still knitting itself back together, his immune system potentially ravaged by the tumor's presence and the invasive surgery he should be recovering from. Releasing him into anything less than a sterile, controlled environment wasn't just premature, it felt reckless, bordering on negligent. Hope, catching the frantic edge in Steffy's voice and the devastating fragments of the conversation, felt her own stomach plummet. Shared horror flashed between the two women, their rivalry momentarily obliterated by the sheer magnitude of this inexplicable, dangerous decision. What did he say? Hope demanded, her voice tight. Bill took Liam? He's out? Steffy could only nod, her face pale, the implications cascading, infection risk, uncontrolled pain, inadequate monitoring of his neurological status, the sheer physical strain. Grace Buckingham, the trusted chief of staff, had seemingly tossed all caution and protocol to the wind. The alarm bells weren't just ringing for Steffi now. They were a deafening siren in the minds of both women who loved Liam, a chilling counterpoint to the quiet efficiency of the private surgical center where Bill Spencer kept vigil. In that secluded, unnervingly silent facility, far from the scrutiny of General Hospital, Bill Spencer watched over his son with a potent mixture of profound relief and fiercely protective intensity. Liam lay still, bandaged, the visible evidence of the experimental surgery stark against his pallor. To Bill, gazing down at his son's peaceful, breathing form, this was nothing short of the divine intervention Grace had promised. "You made it, son," Bill murmured, his voice thick with emotion, the weight of months of dread finally lifting. "You beat it. This is the miracle." He saw only the bandage, the survival, the whispered hope of a future snatched back from the precipice. He saw Grace's gamble paying off, the $1 million price tag a trivial cost for Liam's life. He was utterly unaware that the miracle he witnessed was potentially a meticulously staged illusion, a dangerous charade playing out on his son's unconscious body. Oblivious to the true nature of the procedure, or lack thereof, Bill's world had narrowed to this room, this second chance, bowing silently to shield Liam from any further harm, blissfully ignorant that the greatest harm might have already been inflicted within these very walls. Meanwhile, back at General Hospital, the architect of this fragile facade was grappling with the corrosive weight of her deception. Grace Buckingham, the epitome of medical authority, sat rigidly in her office, the door firmly closed against the bustling hospital corridor. The sterile environment offered no comfort. Her eyes were locked onto her phone screen, transfixed by the notification of a completed transfer, $1 million. A wave of intense, almost nauseating relief washed over her, momentarily eclipsing the crushing guilt that had become her constant companion. The relentless, threatening calls, the terrifying ultimatums hanging over her family's safety, this payment was meant to silence them, to buy precious time and security. But the relief was fleeting, instantly replaced by a fresh surge of dread. This transaction was a tangible, damning thread in the web she'd woven. The sheer amount, the timing coinciding precisely with Liam's surgery and discharge, would be impossible to explain away if scrutinized. Every piece of the puzzle pointed towards a horrifying conclusion. Liam Spencer's brain tumor was not a tragic medical reality, but the core element of an elaborate, cruel con. The diagnosis? Likely fabricated through manipulated test results. The debilitating symptoms? Probably induced by carefully administered, non-therapeutic pills designed to mimic illness. The life-saving, experimental surgery? Almost certainly nothing more than a superficial incision, a cruel, sterile violation, followed by a strategically placed bandage, a macabre stage prop to sell the illusion of groundbreaking treatment to desperate, grieving loved ones like Bill. Liam hadn't undergone a revolutionary procedure, he'd been subjected to a dangerous, unethical performance. Grace's motive, while born of terror for her own family under the thumb of blackmail and buried under crushing debt, didn't absolve the monstrousness of the act. The shadow of her guilt was palpable, her every movement taut with the fear of exposure, making her subsequent actions seem profoundly, unnervingly shady. She couldn't hide forever, the hospital demanded her presence, but every step outside her office felt like walking into an inquisition. That inquisition arrived swiftly, embodied by the deeply troubled Dr. Finnegan. Finn, armed with Steffi's frantic concerns, his own professional judgment screaming that Liam's discharge was medically indefensible, and a growing, gnawing suspicion about Grace's overall handling of the case, sought her out. He found her in the relative quiet of the doctor's lounge, a moment of false calm before the storm he carried with him. "Grace," Finn began, his voice deceptively calm but his eyes sharp, analytical. "Can we talk about Liam Spencer?" He didn't wait for pleasantries, cutting straight to the heart of his disquiet. "I understand you authorized his discharge this morning, and that Bill Spencer removed him to a private facility." He paused, letting the statement hang, watching her reaction closely. "I have to admit, I'm perplexed. And concerned. Deeply concerned." Liam sustained a significant gunshot wound. His recovery from that alone requires careful monitoring, physical therapy, vigilance for complications. But layered on top of that is his brain tumor diagnosis. Finn leaned in slightly, his tone intensifying. That condition, Grace, it inherently compromises his immune system. It causes debilitating symptoms, fatigue, weakness, neurological deficits. It demands constant neurological assessment, especially after undergoing a supposedly major, experimental neurosurgical procedure just days ago. How could releasing him, in such a fragile state, possibly align with his best medical interests? Was he even stable? Were the risks of infection, hemorrhage, uncontrolled symptoms, or neurological deterioration fully assessed and deemed acceptable? Frankly, it feels reckless. I need to understand the clinical reasoning here. What was so urgent that it overrode every standard protocol for postoperative and immunocompromised care? Finn's questions were a relentless barrage, each one a scalpel peeling back the layers of her flimsy justification. He wasn't just asking, he was dissecting her decision, his medical expertise a spotlight exposing every illogical, dangerous flaw. Confronted by Finn's incisive, unwavering interrogation, the carefully constructed facade Grace Buckingham had maintained began to fissure. His questions weren't casual inquiries, they were targeted strikes, each one hitting a vulnerable point in her fabricated narrative. The color drained from her face as Finn meticulously outlined the medical insanity of releasing a patient recovering from both a gunshot and major brain surgery. She flinched visibly at the mention of immune compromise and neurological deficits, terms that highlighted the sheer absurdity of her actions. Her eyes, unable to meet Finn's piercing gaze, darted nervously around the room, seeking an escape route that didn't exist. Her hands, usually steady and capable, trembled faintly where they rested on the table. Bill insisted, she stammered, her voice losing its customary authority, becoming thin and defensive. The private facility, it has excellent care. Continuous monitoring. They have the resources. The excuses sounded hollow even to her own ears, pathetic defenses against Finn's solid wall of medical logic. As he pressed further, demanding specifics about Liam's post-op stability, neurological checks, and risk assessments she clearly hadn't performed, a flicker of sheer panic ignited in her eyes. The weight of the lie, the $1 million bribe sitting in her account, the terrifying consequences of exposure crashing down, it threatened to suffocate her. I have rounds, she blurted out, pushing back her chair abruptly, the leg scraping harshly against the floor. This really isn't. I have patients waiting. Her retreat was clumsy, hurried, devoid of the dignified poise expected of the chief of staff. She practically fled the lounge, leaving Finn standing alone amidst the quiet hum of the hospital. Her panic, her evasion, her inability to provide even a remotely coherent medical justification, were more damning than any admission. Finn watched her go, his initial perplexity hardening into cold, certain suspicion. The alarm bell Steffy heard had just amplified into a deafening klaxon in his own mind. Grace Buckingham wasn't just acting shady, she was radiating guilt. And Finn Finnegan, protective of his family, dedicated to his oath, and now profoundly disturbed by the potential malpractice and deception surrounding his brother-in-law, was far from finished. The grilling session was merely the first salvo, the hunt for the truth, for Liam's real condition and the motives behind this dangerous charade, had just escalated dramatically, leaving Steffy's initial alarm validated and the specter of catastrophe looming larger than ever. The fragile illusion of Liam's miracle cure was cracking, and beneath it lay a reality potential.